Hi, and welcome back to another edition of The Land and Legacy by Griffith Realty. I'm Scott Griffith. I'm here with my sister Carol, and we're the owners of Griffith Realty. And today we have a really great guest. We're privileged to have a town resident and growing up with us, Tim Corrigan of Corrigan Oil, and we're just really excited that Tim could be here for a million reasons. He and his brother owning the company are siblings running their business, just like Carol and I are. Plus, we have the benefit of all growing up in Brighton together. So, welcome, Tim. Thank you very much for being our guest. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's really a privilege. Always enjoy talking with both of you. Of course, Scott, I see you on a more regular basis than many other things we do, but yeah, I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, well, and as Tim says, he's on the DDA. He's the chair of the DDA for the last few years, and he's got all these other accomplishments. He's on the bank boards, and so we see each other all over town. It's just what you do when you grow up here, So I thought it would be great to have you first start out. I mean, you have a similar trajectory of our company where you took over from your parents, and yet you and Mike have done an amazing job of growing your business. So tell us a little bit about Corrigan's history and where it's been for anybody who doesn't know that. That'd be fun.
Well, I guess I can take you back a little ways. There's probably some things that many things people know about the company and how we started and what began, and probably some that don't. But theoretically, Mike and I are really third-generation fuel peddlers. My grandfather started out down in Dearborn delivering ice and coal back in the 20s.
Oh, no kidding.
And then his brother and he were in the moving business in the 30s during the Depression and helped move a lot of people around when things were pretty difficult. And my uncle was actually a part-time chauffeur for Henry Ford back in those days.
Ah,
so
cool.
My dad kind of grew up there when they were delivering the ice and coal, and his refrigerators came in and fuel oil furnaces came into being. My grandfather kind of got into the heating oil, fuel oil business down there in Dearborn. So as time went on, my dad had a little time. He was in Korea for a little bit in the service, came back and worked a couple of more years after that, and then he actually came out to Brighton in 1958, which is the same year that he married my mother, and also bought the Sunoco station on the corner of Grand River and Liberty, a store that we still have today that we raised and rebuilt it back in 1992, and we just gave it kind of another facelift here this past year. But that is the original spot where everything started out here in Brighton for my dad and his immediate family. And that's where my brother and I basically grew up in that gas station through the years. And one other funny story that a lot of people know is that it used to be the Chevrolet dealer across the street. It was GD Van Camp.
Right. Yeah, I remember the dealership.
My dad actually had got married, and he traded my mother's car for a tow truck that Van Camp had because he needed a tow truck.
Oh,
and
my
then
gosh.
gave her his car because she was working up at Citizens Insurance up in Howell at the time.
Oh, that's great.
And they lived, out on Flint Road.
Sure.
Which was my mother's parents had the farm out there. And that's where my dad and mom actually built, and then her brother lived there, and my cousin and I crossed the street. Mike's on the same road. I've actually had 3 addresses all on the same road.
That's amazing.
That's great.
That's amazing.
So, but that's kind of how we started. So, Mike and I, grew up pumping gas, washing windshields. We rented U-Haul trucks and trailers, ran the tow truck, ran, the fuel oil truck that I delivered a lot of heating oil myself, back in the day.
Yeah.
And then we continued to, obviously through the support of my dad and the opportunity that he allowed us to have, we were able to start kind of expanding and taking the company in other directions that we felt were the right things to do.
Well, it's obviously worked great. I mean, you guys are amazingly vertically integrated. You have so many different business lines now, which are all successful. I mean, credit to you guys both in your business savvy and also understand what your business is. It's great, So talk about, in case people don't know, you have so many lines of business. Tell us what all you do now at Corrigan.
Well, I guess give a little more background too. From starting out at the time that Mike and I were actively getting in, there was probably about 8 people that we had involved and employed. Now we have about 800.
Wow.
So it's grown immensely in that regard. We've expanded more. On the fuel side, we've had a chain of C-stores, so we've certainly supply on a number of convenience stores with fuel. Our tank wagon business, as we call it, it's where you take and deliver to job sites and different things like that.
Yeah.
You won't know my terminology. So,
I wouldn't know what tank wagon was, but go ahead.
But at any rate, so we've expanded in through acquisitions and different things in that end of the business. We also, towing, of course, is growing quite a bit as well. I mean, it's not just the jump start type arm in the ditch. We have heavy haul. We're moving heavy equipment for many different companies, big pieces of machinery and whatnot. And we do some specialty hauling too, in various ways. So that's expanded a lot. We're also in the, we handle a little bit of the salt and brine type business. We do some dust control.
Yeah,
so we have different, it all involves logistics and equipment, and that's what we do. So it's kind of you call, we haul type situation. And we have a full line of lubricants, some of the different cutting oils and hydraulics and things. Some we manufacture ourselves at our Whitmore Lake facility, and we're a BP Castrol distributor.
Right.
So we do a lot of those types of things as well. And one of the latest things we've done is a little more of a mechanical services division, where we're trying to move into some businesses that are probably a little more Amazon proof, and we don't have to worry about. As electric vehicles and other things come into being, we certainly participate in that, but we're looking for other things to continue to grow as, fuel will slowly, over many years, will start to, kind of go down a little bit too. So we're looking at that type of thing. So we have, mechanical services where we can do anything from repairing pumps to installing tanks to pulling tanks to...
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you do environmental. You have an environmental arm. That's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense for your business, but also it's wonderful benefit when people need environmental work. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So kind of, expanding in the things that, have always been there, the bread and butter, if you will, but also looking to the future as to what other lines of business are going to sustain this, for the next generation and beyond.
Sure. So what do you think of the pressure that's being put on the petroleum industry as you have alternative fuels? I know it's an environmental issue and all that, but I personally have sat here going, the idea I'm going to give up the convenience of petroleum-based, fossil fuel business for all these other alternatives. I don't know about you.
Well, it's an interesting question. It's one that we certainly, that we think a lot about, and I embrace it too. As I told the story earlier, my grandfather started out delivering ice and coal. Now, if you hadn't been prepared to evolve and do something else, we wouldn't be here today. So, my opinion of it is that it's going to take a number of years for it to, really take a good foothold and get going.
Sure.
The only apprehension I have about it is I never like it when something is mandated and subsidized into existence.
Right.
And that's kind of the way they're doing it. I think, the technology continues to evolve. It needs to be there, and I'm sure it's something that makes a lot of sense in many applications to have that type of vehicle. And in my opinion, we better to kind of let the marketplace decide when it's ready, as it's ready.
Sure.
And in the meantime, contrary to maybe some of whom we have in political office these days, and I won't go political, but we are going to need to have fossil fuel for many, many years to come. And you need to continue to look for the safest, most economical ways to continue to have that product. And I also think that as this evolves, they'll find that you will have other sources of energy as well, be it hydrogen, be it more of the hybrid, along with electric, that kind of propel us into the future. So
actually, that was my thought too. Is I know that there's a lot of emphasis, say, on like solar and a lot of emphasis on electrical, but there's a lot of different ways to get to creating energy, and we may not have found the secret sauce yet. You know what I mean?
Well, the scary part of it is right now, it's just a misnomer in a way, because, there's no cost parity there. Your electric vehicle, if you're not paying road taxes, if you're on the road, you're getting all these other incentives and whatnot to do it. And I don't know about you guys, but my electric bills never went down.
Yeah.
So
in fact, and the utility bill are being transparent and saying your utilities are going up this year. They're making no bones about it. It's going to jump by 20%.
But all that being said, the reality of it is it's a part of our world, and it's going to be a much larger part as we go forward. We are involved in that space. We do have some electric chargers that are out there in some areas to start getting the feel for what it will be and how it'll work. And we're continuing to look to see how we can evolve into that. But, certainly as time goes on, as you get a greater number of those type of vehicles, you will see a shift in the type of station that you have out there.
Sure.
Again, that's where your backcourt becomes a lot more important as to what type of store you have and the offerings you have in there. So you got to look at more of that side of the convenience. And in some instances, it just, when it really takes hold, it won't make sense to have necessarily a corner store like where I grew up, because the guy working in Ann Arbor will charge at home or charge at Google when he gets down there. So, so again, we have to look on to say, we're still going to be here and we're still going to be doing things, and we will figure out how to continue to evolve into what's next.
Well, I mean, so you do. I mean, that's the thing that's impressive about Corrigan. You guys have been extremely adaptive and successful in all the things you do. I mean, obviously being in real estate, we know that you all have made a substantial commitment to reinvesting in real estate in Livingston County. I mean, you guys have bought real estate, and we understand that since we do the same, and we are in the business. But that's a great and. Real estate will still be here, and you'll be what you want to do with it, right?
Exactly.
And what can it do for you, right? So, obviously, you see, like we do, the benefits of real estate in the long run. It may generate revenues that you need to have to offset other revenues. It's just the way it is.
It's exactly right. You have to continue to see, because one thing, the one constant in life is change, and we know that's going to continue to happen. And so, and I'm as probably as set in my ways kind of person as of anyone you could meet, but I understand that we have to continue to be able to adapt and evolve.
So, I mean, just going toward the personal side, I mean, you grew up here just like Carol and I did. We raised our children here, I mean, so do you think, and your company's been extremely successful, and you should be very proud of that, and I know you are. What do you think, like, the secret sauce is? I mean, is it you two just saw opportunities? Do you think it's the community offered? I mean, what kind of created the environment that makes you guys successful? What do you think?
Well, I think it's probably no different. A lot of what both of you have done too. A lot of it certainly is your upbringing too. It's how you're brought up, and we were brought up with a strong work ethic, and it's say what you do and do what you say. That was something that my dad was very adamant about, and if you gave your word. Even
That's
if it
all that
cost
mattered,
you,
right?
Once you gave your word, there was no going back on. I don't care if there was documents, papers, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. That was the most important thing. And a really sound, solid work ethic. I mean, no one in the family ever was allowed to sit on their hands. That just isn't the way it worked. And I think that being brought up with that work ethic and the integrity that we were, taught, and the fact that we were very fortunate to be in the community that we're in. And it was a super, great place to grow up, and the people that we've been able to associate with, and quite frankly, with the employees that we have, and I'm involved in many, many things, even at the oil company levels, is definitely one of the best in the industry. That being able to attract good people and working hard side by side with them, I personally think that is the secret to success.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
Great. You've demonstrated. It's really great, So. So we weren't in the same class. You were, I think, in my brother-in-law's class. But what are some of your...
I'm a lot younger than you are.
Way younger.
Me too. Yeah. We just want to make that
Carol's way younger too. Yeah, by whole 361 days. But so what are some of your fondest memories of growing up out here? What's like what did you get? I don't know. What did you do when you grew up?
Yeah, there's so many of them, and it was your brother-in-law Mark Michaels that I actually met Mark in the second grade.
Yeah.
So that's how long I've known him. Well, and your wife too, quite frankly.
Yeah, I was gonna say you did, Diane. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, at the same time. I will say, probably some of the fondest memories it was really unique growing up. Like I said, I grew up in the gas station, so I had. Anyone who was anyone in town back in the day used to come into my dad's station.
That's true.
Sure.
Yeah, everybody knew Bernie's. Yeah,
they knew him, and in fact, I had often said that was probably the Republican headquarters for Livingston County. I said I wasn't going to talk politics, but I guess I'll let that out of the bag.
It probably was,
but it was. I mean, and you had all the town characters. I mean, I knew Joe Ellis, was a county clerk, Ed Hahn. Judge Haggerty, and guys like John Brennan, and just the Wrights from the Canopy, Jack and Olga Wright, and Al Lomick, and just I can go on and on and on with the people that I had the pleasure of knowing as a young kid. So I really that was probably some fond memories for me, like Harold Showerman that had Harold's in between and all that. They were all good, super good friends. My parents I got to know. And certainly made many, many good friends, myself that were my age that we used to hang out at. One of the hangouts used to be my dad's gas station on the weekend because I could,
you can open the door.
Well, I was back there and I used to hide a little beer back there too, and I can't tell that.
That's great.
But that was the fond memories, and it was a great place to be. I mean, it was, it was safe. You could do a lot of things, and we didn't have all the electronics and things obviously we have today. You just had to kind of worry about someone with a big mouth, and you could deny half of that. But nowadays it's a lot different. But
nobody can track it.
So a lot of it was just it was a great place to be, and I thoroughly enjoyed my childhood. Certainly enjoyed high school an awful lot. Just had the pleasure of having my 40-year class reunion this past summer, and kind of got reunited with some people I hadn't seen in a long time, and some I see all the time. I still have many, many close friends from those days. I mean, like yesterday I had lunch with Scott Underwood and Sean Pipley. We all graduated together. And I was thinking yesterday, we went on our senior trip together 40 years later. We're sitting here having lunch. So
that is so really great.
So that was, was really nice to make those lifelong friendships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing out here. Every day it seems like you run into somebody, and I get talking to them, and I realize they grew up here or something, and everybody thinks it's a town everybody's moved into. Well, it's true that they have. There's a lot of growth, but we also have just so many people who are still townsfolk that are still around here, and they always got a great story. I today met a gentleman, and he got talking about Joe Ellis of all things, because it turned out he's related to him, and I'm like, oh, I'll be darned. So it's like it's just that type of world that there's still a lot of locals here, So.
Yeah, there is. There's no doubt that the town certainly has changed a lot. I mean, it's not the same place I grew up in many ways, and in some ways it still is. But you're right. There's still kind of a core group. There's getting to be fewer of us, but that are still around there. And my wife, her family actually are lifers out here as well.
Oh, that's great.
Her last name was Hollis, but her grandparents were Harold and Helen Krause.
Okay. Oh, the
Krauses, on Buno Road.
Yeah.
And in fact, just
Krause Acres out there.
Sidebar there. My mother grew up in the corner of Pleasant Valley and Buno Road, and she actually knew my wife's grandparents way back in the day.
Isn't that great?
So between us, there's a lot of those roots are there because my mom and her mother and we're all Brighton grads.
Yeah.
So
that's great. I didn't know that. That's great. It crosses there. That's funny. So So I think we have that same thing in my family with Diane's family and Jerry Michaels and his mother being from here. All the generational things. Our kids that got the generational things like 6 generations. It's kind of fun. So. Yeah, this is my comment I've made a million times, but I could not probably live in the same community I grew up in, and by that I mean the way it looked and the way it was. I love what's happened to our community. I love being here because of the change, not because of what it was. You know what I mean? I love the history, and I love being, but I like downtown Howell and downtown Brighton and the way they look now, not the way they used to be. You know what I mean? It's like I just couldn't live in the same town. It's.
Well, and it's probably a good point of the fact that obviously you're a forward thinker too, and as things evolved, you evolved with it, and in the times that when it was what it was, that was great.
It was great,
and I agree with you. It's great today, and then I'm also very excited about what's to come. As you know, there's different projects through the DDA and whatnot we're working on to help improve downtown even further, and it keeps us vibrant, and it keeps us relative to everything that's happening around. I still think that, I love Livingston County in general, and I certainly, have a whole Brighton in probably at the highest point there because that's where I'm from. But I mean, all of our surrounding communities are great, and Hull is too. But Brighton is certainly, I think the gateway into a lot of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, anything, Kelly?
No, I just appreciate everything that your family has done and the legacy of leadership that you've come from. And the contributions to the community because of that.
Yeah.
Just sometimes on a lot of these boards, which you generously give your time, your whole family, sometimes you just need that little tinge of history just to strengthen, a little bench strength there, and I think makes things go a little bit smoother sometimes. But I think I admire your family for being able to embrace change, not to say, oh, this is how we used to have it or whatever. I think all of you are interested in what's yet to come. And what
well, I
makes our
appreciate that, and I
community
think that's very accurate. We are, just as you and Scott are. I mean, it's great to continue to be a part of the things that were and a part of the things that are coming, and I still, this is still going to be a great area no matter what. I have just the highest of hopes for many, like I said, many years to come as to what, where this community will be and the important role that it'll play.
Yeah, I do too. And any observations, given that we are siblings running sibling businesses? Any suggestions for people who run family businesses? I know Carol and I have our dynamic because it's a brother-sister operation, and you're a brother-brother operation. Any observations I should know about here that we can share with the world?
Well, it's like anything, family business, it brings a whole different set of dynamics, and I think it's safe to say it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
As you two have and Mike and I have, we have successfully navigated, those types of situations and circumstances whenever there's differences or whatnot, and we've gotten along very, very well.
We always laugh. We say we still gotta have Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas dinner together, so it's not like we're not gonna have a knockdown dragouts because we gotta all sit together at dinner.
That's right. Or if you do, you got to get over them and move on.
Move on fast.
I mean, it's okay to disagree.
Yes,
and sometimes
right,
you can
right.
agree to disagree,
Right,
but you got to know how to move forward and keep things. You always got to have the bigger picture in mind. It's not about just what's best for me, or just what's best for Mike or whatever. What's best for the company and our families in general. And I think that our eye is always on that larger focus. Yes, certainly there can be day-to-day things that we can approach differently as anyone
anywhere
does.
else would be.
I mean, as it is. So,
it's fun.
Yeah, and again, so we've obviously worked together all our lives, just as you have, and it's been great.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time today to sit down and talk to us and share us things. And one of these days, maybe we'll do chapter 2 and we'll just tell stories about Brighton or something.
Well, I'd like that. 'Cause I got a lot of them.
Maybe we won't then, Tom. I'll say.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity of being here today. It's always a pleasure to see you both, you and Carol both, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
And I guess with that, we'll end another Land and Legacy by Griffith Realty, and thank you for listening and watching.